Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. Although I am standing on a yoga mat, if you don't have one, don't worry. Find a place in your house that's not too hard or too slippery, and that can be your yoga mat. Maybe you've got a carpeted area or a rug. I have 2 yoga blocks. What you can substitute for that is 2 thick books. And I have a folded blanket, which could be as simple as a big beach towel or the throw blanket from your couch. I also have a dog bed. You don't have to have one of those, but they are pretty fun to have nearby, if you know what I'm saying. We will start in our bedrock pose of mountain pose, so feet hip distance. Let's stand with a soft bend in our knees. Turn your palms away from each other. Let that start at your shoulder joint. Chin parallel to the ground, and we will stop so that we can start. Let your breath, if you can, travel just through your nose. Of course, breathe any way that you can if breathing through your nose is not an option. But let's lace our breath with awareness. We breathe all the time or we wouldn't be here. But very rarely do we stir in the awareness that we start to find in any mindfulness practice like this yoga practice we're starting. We'll add movement to our breath. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then just exhale, float your arms back along your side. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, float your arms along your side. Adding on more. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Take your hands to your thighs for this first one. And then inhale, press into your thighs, lengthen your heart forward and up. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, but keep the length in your spine. And then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand in your mountain pose, palms face out, chin parallel to the ground. We'll do that again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs. Maybe you slide them down towards your shins, but I want you to keep the length in your spine as you do. Inhale, elevate your heart. That could be hands on thighs, or they slide up your shins a bit towards your thighs. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Your hands could slide back down your shins if that's working for you. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Stand in your mountain. We want a priority to be that we keep the length in our spine. We're never hunching into our forward folds. We'll do that much again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or shins or even towards your ankles, but length through our spine. Inhale, your hands can slide up as your heart lifts up. Exhale, fold a little deeper in, but keep the length in your spine. Then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Stand and pause, palms face out. We're facing the short edge of our mat. We've got a hip distance stance, and we will add on to our sun salutation. Inhale, V shape, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips. Bend your knees enough that your hands can go solidly onto the ground. Step back into our first down dog of the day. You might want to stay on tippy toes. You can bend your knees. You might step your feet as wide as your mat, at least for this first one. We're not collapsed and bending our elbows out. So I want you to feel like there's a hook in your tailbone. Lifting your tailbone and keeping that prioritized length through your spine here, not rounding. Then we'll work with an exhale to walk our feet forward all the way up to our hands, feet hip distance. Hands to ankles, shins, or thighs as we inhale and uplift our heart. We exhale and fold back in. Then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, V shape. We stand in our mountain. If ever you're dizzy, you can pause here a little bit longer and get our druthers. Let's add another friend to our sun salutation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart, maybe your hands slide up. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, bend your knees, place your hands flat. Step back to our down dog and find that hook in your tailbone. Then shift it towards a plank. That's shoulders over wrists. Move into your arms so that you don't collapse into your shoulders. And then just bring your knees to your mat directly below where they were in our plank. Again, we're going to feel strength through our belly. So lift your belly towards your spine. Shift a little forward. Let your elbows brush your ribs as you lower all the way down onto your belly. And once you're there, Sphinx pose. Forearms on our mat. Uncurl your toes. Traction your elbows towards you, chin parallel to the ground, like we did earlier in our sun salutation, but press actively into your feet so that your kneecaps can come up off the ground. Lower down enough that you can curl your toes under, come through all fours, back to our friend down dog. Remember, you can step wider, find the hook in your tailbone, lengthen through your spine. Walk slowly, feet towards your hands, feet hip distance, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as we inhale and uplift our heart. Exhale, fold in, increasing the hinge in our hips, and then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V. We'll stand in our mountain and flow through that much one more time. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, your shins, or your ankles. Inhale, maybe your hands slide up, your heart lifts up. Exhale, increase the hinge in your hips, bend your knees, palms flat, step carefully to down dog, measure it so that you can keep length in your spine. Shift it towards a plank, shoulders over wrists, knees come down, belly firm. We lower to our belly with our elbows brushing against our ribs. Uncurl your toes, forearms down. We traction into our Sphinx. And then lower down here, curl your toes under, come through all fours. And then to downward facing dog. I would say staying high on our tiptoes might be really helpful to that prioritized long spine. Exhale and walk forward, feet hip distance, hands come to our ankles, shins, or thighs as we uplift and inhale. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Then inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and we'll stand into our mountain. I'll turn and face you. Keep your hip distance stance. Bring your hands onto your hips. Stand on your left leg with a nice solid outer hip hugging in, and then from your right hip, turn your toes out and create a kickstand. So this is something called external rotation at our right hip. Don't worry, there's not a quiz, and you're gonna feel that you're solid and hugging that left hip in. You can stay just like this, or work that right foot into your left shin. You might even help it along, right foot into left inner thigh. And if you have slippery yoga pants, the inner thigh is tough. You can take your arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. You're also welcome to use the arm of your couch or a chair or the wall for some balance here. And perhaps you grow your branches into a V shape. Now bring your hands onto your hips. Turn your right knee forward and step down into our mountain. Remember, there's a little soft bend to our knees here. Palms face out as we stand tall. Then we bring our hands onto our hips. We'll stand on our right leg this time and feel a nice solid outer right hip. And then from our hip, we turn that left leg out. The toes will be indicating out to the left. And then kickstand it and tend to the trunk of your tree. You may put your left foot into the shin or even help it along into the inner thigh. Remember, you can use anything you'd like for balance. So it's nice to have a wall or the arm of a chair or sofa, and then arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky, maybe even a V shape as we pause. Hands return to our hips, left knee points forward, we step down, feet parallel and hip distance, and we return to our mountain. Let's step wide out onto our mat. So we're facing the long edge, and if you don't have a long edge, you're imagining a long edge. Arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Let's start with measuring our ankles underneath our wrists. It's likely that we'll have to refine that. Pretend that you are doing that setup for our tree pose with your right leg from the right hip. You might even take your right hand onto your right hip and turn your right leg out so that your foot is facing the short edge of your mat. Then cheat your left heel back at a 45-degree angle. First, we need to check as we bend our right knee. I need more front and back space. You might also, so that it's a vertical line from our right knee to our right ankle. We'll be dynamic. We inhale and straighten our front leg, arms up overhead, and then exhale and rebend our right knee into Warrior Two pose. Inhale, V-shape, arms up, front leg straight. Exhale, we bend our front knee. We'll do that one more time. Inhale, arms out, stretch overhead, V-shape. Then settle into Warrior Two. And here's what I'd like you to notice, that your right hip is doing the same thing it was doing in tree pose, but now it's weight bearing and it's in a Warrior Two pose. However, the action of that right hip is the same thing. Right thigh bone is moving to the right, not collapsing to the left. We'll settle in. I'm going to give you some silence to breathe into this shape. 3 moments together. We'll straighten our front leg and lower our arms. Turn all of your toes to face that long edge of your mat. Same idea as the setup of our tree pose. Turn your left leg out, so now your left foot is facing the short edge of your mat. Then cheat your right heel back. We should be okay for our stance since we measured it before, but it's always good to be a little bit mindful about that. Thumbs to the sky. We'll bend our left knee, and then we'll straighten that left leg and take our arms up overhead in a V. Bend your front knee. You can use your exhale for this part, and inhale, arms overhead. Let's do that again. Bend your front knee. Let's think that this is our exhale. And then we inhale our arms overhead. Settle in to your Warrior Two stance with your bent left knee. Right foot at about a 45-degree angle. Right thigh bone is pressing into the hamstring as opposed to letting that back leg collapse. And we're standing in our mountain from our waist up. I'll give you that swath of silence once again. If you need to lower your arms and bring them back up, you can. If you need to straighten your front leg and then rebend, no problem. 3 silent, meditative moments together in this shape. Now we'll straighten our front leg, turn all toes to face that long edge, and then heel toe until we're back into our hip distance stance. You will want 2 tall blocks. You might even use the arm of your sofa for this next thing if the blocks aren't really quite tall enough or sturdy enough. So I will show you with my 2 tall blocks, and I will turn to face you. You can do the same. You don't have to be beholden to the shape of your mat for this. But we do want to place our blocks about a foot out in front of us and start with our feet hip distance, just like we did with our sun salutations and with our tree pose. We'll stand on our left leg, hands on our hips, and we'll do that little jig. So we'll turn, but this time with a bent knee into our jig, bend our left knee, and we'll take a figure 4 shape here, and it could stay upright just like this and be perfection. There is a curling back of our right toes. We're not a floppy ankle, and we might bend our left knee, keep length through our spine, and find either the arm of our chair or even a wall, or you can start to move your hands down towards your blocks, but what I want is that long prioritized spine to find us here in a figure 4. And we breathe. We keep those toes curling back, and we're making sure we're not swinging our hips out to the left too much. Let's take about 3 silent moments here. As you come out of it, firm through your belly and know where you are in space. You'll come upright, maybe hands on your hips, turn your knee to the sky, step down, hip distance, and we land, we pause. So a lot going on, balance, flexibility, all kinds of things in that figure 4. Hands on your hips. This time it is your left leg that will go out in front. We can bend our right knee. We'll find that little action that we talked about in our warrior pose and in our tree. We do want to be solid in that right hip. Then it's left ankle on top of right thigh. And I'm fine with you being upright. You could be upright and using the arm of your sofa. If you're feeling balance and you're feeling a bit of stretch in that left hip, you've arrived. You don't have to go any further. It's not what it looks like, it's what it feels like. And that's the sign of an advanced yogi. You might hinge at your hips and take your hands to either that arm of your chair or sofa or your tall blocks. Find a place where it's interesting but it doesn't feel painful, and let's meditate for our 3 moments together on this side. Remember, we want to know where we are, firm through our belly, hands to hips, we come upright, left knee points to the sky, and we step down, little bend in our knees, returning to our mountain pose. We want to mindfully arrange our props for the next thing. So tall blocks off the side of your mat, not on top of your mat, so we don't want them underfoot. And they will go to either long edge. So think back to when we did our warrior pose and we were wide because we're heading back to our wide pose. And we will step into that width. Remember, we started with approximately our ankles underneath our wrists. So let's start there. If we have to refine, we know how. Turn your right leg out so that your right foot is facing that short edge of your mat, and then cheat your left heel back at that 45-degree angle. Bend your right knee. I think I need a little bit more space once again. Find that warrior posture that we spent a little bit of time in earlier. And now right forearm across your thigh, left arm up to the sky. We're not collapsed into our right shoulder. We're oomping into our right forearm and getting a little space. You might bring your block to the outside of your right foot. Maybe it's a tall block, but forearm across the thigh is perfect. We'll stay here, and now we've got something to press our right thigh bone against. Remember, we were talking about letting that right thigh bone move to the right when we were doing Warrior 2. Now we have a landmark that we can use to find that. And we'll stay here. If you are doing forearm across the thigh and you don't have a prop, you can carefully place your right hand on your thigh and gently begin to straighten your front leg, not lock it out into an overly straight situation. You want to have a little micro bend in that knee. If you're using a tall block, that gives you a little bit more to play with as we begin to mindfully straighten our right leg into triangle pose. Press the right big toe mound of your right foot into your mat. Spin your inner upper arms away from each other. Create some freedom. 3 silent moments in this new hamstring stretching, hip opening stance. Now firm through your belly. Look down and bend your right knee. If you're using your block or book, just put it off to the side and come to Warrior 2, and then we'll straighten our front leg. Turn all our toes to face the long edge of our mat. Turn our left leg out so that our left foot is facing that short edge of our mat. Cheat our right heel back. Our spacing should be okay since we were just here. Warrior 2 with our left knee bent. Left forearm across our thigh, right arm up to the sky, which is totally great to stay with. We're still thinking left thigh bone to the left. We're remembering our tree pose and our figure 4. That's happening in our left hip. You might trot your block in and place it on the outside of your left leg, your left foot, and pause in what's called side angle pose for a moment. Now remember, if you're forearm across the thigh and you don't have a prop available, you can take your left hand onto your left thigh. I just don't want you to push it into hyperextension. So press into your left big toe mound, keep a little bit of healthy tension between your left thigh bone and your left hand, or reach down for your block. Even if you're using your block, we're not in hyperextension of our left leg. There's more of a muscular feel to how we're straightening it. And then we appreciate that it's the action of tree pose and figure 4 in addition to a hamstring stretch in our triangle pose. And we take 3 moments to breathe into it. Now look down and bend your left knee, move your block off the side of your mat, come to warrior 2, and then straighten your front leg. Turn all toes to face the long edge. Heel toe, make your way to hip distance, and then to the front edge of your mat. You're welcome to organize your props and bring them both towards the front edge of your mat, just in case you're worried about tripping on them behind you. Let's stand in our mountain, and then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins, ankles, wherever they go for you. Inhale, uplift your heart, bend your knees enough that your hands come to your mat, and we step to our down dog that has the hook in our tailbone, and then shift towards a plank and bring your knees to your mat. This time, swing your legs around out in front of you. As we come seated, I'll show you how to fashion this seated forward fold. If you give yourself more space and bring your hands behind your back, or on the ground behind you, you can find right ankle on top of left thigh. What I don't want is a crumble. So if you need to even almost straighten your left leg and then curl all toes back, that's great. But I still have a prioritized long spine. If you need more sensation, then you'll bend your left knee more and walk your hands in. But again, make sure it's not a slumping, rounding situation that you're creating here. And we're going to use this as a little stretch and meditation moment. 5 silent, meditative moments together in this shape. Now, if you did tighten it up a little bit, walk it back out carefully and then place both feet on your mat. One side might be really different from the other. So as we assemble left ankle on top of right thigh, you might need a little bit more space on this side. Maybe a little bit less space so that you get all the feels. Curl left toes back. Oomph enough into your right foot that you feel like you're connected to the earth there. Find your tall spine once again. And then let's drift into our silent meditation full of hip opening sensation. Now, maybe it's a nice thing to loosen it up a little bit as we exit. Bring your feet on your mat, hip distance, and lie down on your back. Once you're on your back, take one hand on your heart, one hand on your low belly, and just pause a moment and give yourself credit for the beautiful work that you've done, and a moment to appreciate the rise and fall of our breath and beating of our heart. And now let's turn this into a bridge pose. So fingers to the sky, shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. Call these robot arms. And then lift your hips gently, press into your feet. You could stay with your robot arms and just feel your shoulder blades move towards each other underneath you. Maybe palms flat feels better to you, or holding the edges of your mat and pulling your mat apart and away from your head. Last option is to potentially interlace. That means your snuggle will get a little bit more so, shoulder blades retracting, which means coming towards each other. 3 moments here. If you're interlaced, carefully slide your hands away from each other, lower your hips to your mat, scoot your hips to the right, let your knees drop over to the left for a spinal twist. You might even cross your right knee on top of your left knee if that feels good to you. And then come to center, plant your feet, scoot your hips left, let your knees drop right, perhaps left knee crosses on top of right knee, and we pause. And then we'll come back to center and set up our Shavasana final meditation. So you can step your feet as wide as your mat, let your knees knock knee in on each other, shimmy your shoulders on the ground, gently just an inch, lift your hips and place your hips back down with plenty of space. Feel free to stay here or extend one leg and then the other. Feet flop open and we fall into the arms of the earth. Let yourself let go. As always, I encourage you to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready, you can wiggle fingers and toes a little bit. You might stretch your arms and legs away from each other. Collect your knees into your chest. Roll gently to either side and let your head be the very last thing to come up to any comfortable way to sit. Hands in a prayer in front of your heart, or place your hands upon your heart. And just pause and feel this gorgeous work that you have done in your own direction so that you can blast it out, send it out to those you brush up against after you roll up your yoga mat. I think that's where the real yoga happens. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together soon.